New tonight, for the first time since Omaha Police provided more information about the situation in which a police officer shot and killed an unarmed man, the family of the victim is sending a message back.
Our Bella Caracta shares how they're responding to their loved one being killed. We do want to warn you, some of this video may be disturbing.
We're calling for Officer Adam Vale to be fired.
Friends and family believe justice hasn't been served. 6 days since 37-year-old Cameron Ford was killed. On Wednesday, Omaha SWAT executed a no-knock search warrant looking for drugs and firearms. According to Omaha Police, Officer Adam Vale was the first to enter the home and the person responsible for firing the single shot that took Ford's life. Police revealed Ford was unarmed at the time of the shooting. Vale says Ford charged at him. They did find a loaded AR-15 style pistol and drugs in the home. SWAT team members were briefed on Ford's criminal history. He was given a threat assessment of 80. A score of 25 is when SWAT gets involved. But family, friends, and community organizers believe a threat assessment shouldn't be a death sentence.
We were trying to dispel the narrative that Cameron was somebody worthy of death because of allegations of criminal activity. The police still have the responsibility to apprehend even the guiltiest people with the best practices possible, ensuring their safety and that they have a trial and don't face execution in the streets.
Ford was a father of 2 daughters. They, along with about 30 others, gathered in a show of support for Ford Tuesday night.
The actions that took place cannot be congruent with a police department that wants accountability and claims to operate on our behalf.
While police continue their investigation, this family is left grieving. On your side in Omaha, Bella Caracta, 6 News.
The officer involved is on paid administrative leave. After the investigation is complete, the case will be presented to a grand jury to determine if there's enough evidence for criminal charges against the officer.